Testing, testing. If anyone's in the chat,
Yeah,
please say hello.
and I never went back to that doctor again. Sorry, I'm just finishing an anecdote that I can't share live on stream. How's it going, Darren?
It's going good.
Yeah, this is Darren. I'm Kurt. We're the team behind Legends of Avallen. Soon to have an official name change for the system, not for Legends of Avallen. Legends of Avallen. But yeah, it's been a week of stuff and announcements and making pages and reading and so on. But generally, how was your week, bud?
How's been my week? Great, actually, because we've been doing my band. We got a performance this weekend in London, so we've been doing a lot of band practicing, and it's been fun.
Cool. What's the event? What's the name of the?
It is Anime and Gaming League convention, I think, in London, in Hammersmith, so that's West London. Yeah.
Will you be bringing flyers for Faeseekers Gato Avallen and with a QR code that people can sign up for and for your campaign?
I should be, but no, I'm not doing that.
No. Okay, well, just keep that in your back pocket then. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you like our band playing anime music, and you're British. You must love role playing games and follow our campaign, my campaign.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a surefire way to meet people in person and get them to sign up for the mailing list.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. How long is your set?
45 to 50 minutes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to play 9 songs in that time, but we've trimmed it down to 8 songs because one of them was giving us trouble. So we're like, okay, let's just not bother with that. We'll just talk more. It's fine.
Which song was giving you trouble? Can you state which song?
Yeah, I can. I don't know the name of the song. It's from the anime Inferno. Remember the song's called Inferno? And it's from an anime, Fire Force. The anime's called Fire Force. It's about firefighters. Okay. And the song's called Inferno, and it's by Mrs. Green Apple, or Miss Green Apple.
Oh, yeah, I know Miss Green Apple.
Yeah, sure. It has a weird interlude, dude. It has like a time signature change in the interlude, and it's a bit messy.
Yeah, they're pretty popular right now.
Yeah, they're really cool. I like that. We like the song.
But, yeah. I don't like their racist song they took off YouTube. Are you aware of that song?
No, I'm not. Do we need to talk about it now?
Okay, fine. We don't have to.
Yeah. Anyway, we're an RPG podcast, right? Let's get back on topic.
Sure, let's get back on topic. Talk about games. Yeah, I mean, I do like music, but yeah, talking about games. Now, did you do any gaming related things this week? That's the question. That's the gaming.
Mostly Guild Wars 2, actually. They just released a new expansion, which, funny enough, the front cover of it also has someone holding a spear with blue text, which is coincidentally very similar to ours.
Coincidentally,
yeah, we did. I guess we're just... It happens a lot, actually. Not a lot, I guess twice. But twice is a lot for... Considering we have 3 books, it happening twice is a pretty big deal. I guess I can show what I'm talking about.
What was the first time? What happened?
The first time was... when Against the Fairy Queen came out, our artwork prominently featured a female, beautiful, demon-esque woman, a female figure that had her own like symbol with like the crosses and the moon things, and she was like the protagonist. And at the same time, Diablo 4 released with Lilith, who also had like a red themed kind. It wasn't quite tree themed, but it did look quite similar. And she also had a symbol that just like our symbol. It was really uncanny.
I know. I don't know if I saw that.
Yeah.
But Diablo, well, it's interesting.
Yeah, and then this time as well, like Guild Wars 2 was just released with like an Icelandic kind of themed Celtic Irish expansion, which features spears prominently. And I guess I'll go for sci-fi screen share. I guess if I put it here, you can see what we're talking about. This is our next book, The Faeseeker's Guide to Avallen. And we have this awesome artwork with the spear at the front of it. So that's what we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the Guild War, and they say Guild Wars 2 expansion?
Yeah, Guild Wars 2, yeah. I'm a big Guild Wars fan. In fact, our art style is inspired by Guild Wars 2 concept art.
I see.
Yeah.
I'm trying. What's the name of the? I want to look at it.
Oh,
Wars
it's
to expand.
Janthir Wilds. Janthir. Janthir, and then Wilds.
That's around. Oh, I see. Oh, I see. I see. It reminds me of Roaming Throne from Magic the Gathering a little bit. The thing that it's attacking. The monster it's attacking. It's like a giant stone thing.
But which creature in Magic the Gathering?
Roaming Throne.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I think that Roaming Throne, I think, was inspired by Breath of the Wild. I think.
Yeah, that would make sense to me too. I do like this art because it's a woman and a guy firing a bow and arrow. One, the arrow won't reach that creature; it's like too far away, and right. And two, the person with the spear, like, what's that gonna do? That thing's like 10 times as big as the tree line. But that's fantasy art. That's fantasy battles.
Yeah.
They could just be drunk. But then no, that's fine. Oh, good morning, Zilphia. Well, we're just talking about gaming.
Yeah. Zilphia, are you ever been into Guild Wars 2 by any chance? It's a shot in the dark there. But...
Shot in the dark, and let us know if you had any fun with. I thought you went. Also, how was your recent journeys? I heard you went. Is that right? Camping? Maybe you went.
Yeah,
camping,
we already talked about that. We talked about that a few streams ago.
Oh, okay. Sorry. No. That's right. Sorry.
But good recollection though. How's your week been, Kurt? And how's your week been, Sophia?
A gaming thing we did is one of my friends who I play Legends of Avallen with. Although it's been so patient, so it's been hard to get together. He hosted a bad movie night, and the bad movie of choice was Mazes and Monsters featuring Tom Hanks. Is this a movie you're familiar with at all?
Only from what you told me, but you can remind me again.
And I'll remind Sophia and ask Sophia or anyone in the chat who's watching it. And basically, it is a movie in the 80s that was meant to warn people against the inequities of role-playing games. And spoiler alert, the plot is basically a bunch of friends play Mazes and Monsters, which is a Dungeons & Dragons ripoff. And one of the game master decides to kick it up a notch and takes them into a cave system by their university in New York.
So like play in the cave.
Well, yeah, he does LARP. He said the ultimate Mazes and Monsters session, and it's basically a LARP. And so this is quote unquote based on a true story about like a bunch of kids who got lost playing Dungeons and Dragons in like steam tunnels or something in Michigan or whatever. And so they made the story in that vein. And it's supposed to warn people against D&D. And Tom Hanks plays the guy who goes crazy playing D&D, and he becomes his character, and he kind of loses his mind.
Yeah.
But in a very subtle way, he just becomes his character named Pardue, and he stays at his mom's house, and he can never escape. Like, he's just in his own mind, and he believes his character at the end of the movie or whatever. And he tries to kill himself, but he doesn't. Anyway, the point is that the script is absolutely awful.
Yeah.
But Tom Hanks acts the hell out of it. He's fully committed, and it's very entertaining when you watch it with friends. So if you're a gamer, you've never seen Mazes and Monsters, do watch it as a bad movie with a bunch of friends because it's actually hilarious. And also, it was supposed to turn you off of role-playing games, but it makes role-playing games look fucking badass because they're just going to caves and shit. And at the end, Mom's like, "I don't blame you, for this," and then it's just like, and then at the end. Like, the person doesn't, the person who's the most into it gets to live at home, rent-free, and he gets to pretend to be a cleric, and he lives out his days living in a fantasy world. It's like, what's not to love about that? That just seems like the ultimate desirable situation for any kind of role-playing game. Role player. Zilphia, your week was okay and you got sick again. Sorry to hear that. I hope it's not serious. And I hope you don't get the rest of your family sick. But anyway, Maze of Monsters, that was my Sunday game movie, and it was fucking awesome. It was a good one. So watch it with Jasmine sometime and just get drunk and maybe invite Alex. Invite some of your gamers over. You guys should watch it. It's a good one. So yeah, that was my gaming.
Okay, cool.
Story.
I guess while you were talking, I got some side by sides to show what we were talking about just a second ago.
Sure.
So this is where are we? So this is the recent Guild Wars 2 release, Genthia Wilds, and it has the blue coloration, lush grasslands, and lady with spear at the front of it. And then here is our against the Fairy Queen. I mean, a Faeseeker's Guide to Avallen, which also has like the yellow, peach kind of color to it, lush grasses and blue text, and nice lady with spear at the front of it. And that came out last. That came out the same time as our announcement for Faeseeker's Guide to Avallen. And then 2 years ago, I guess, or was it a year ago now, when Against the Fairy Queen came out, we have Lilith from Diablo 4 here, who's this regal female demon queen who has this commanding presence to her. And then at the same time, we released Against the Fairy Queen, and still has that same kind of pink, red aesthetic to it. And yeah, it's just a coincidence. Obviously, both projects were in development for ages. We didn't copy them. There's no way they copied us. Although, we did once have someone from a big gaming company subscribe to our mailing list. It was either Blizzard or BioWare, I think, and I knew, I recognized the name as well, so that was cool. So anyway, no point, no way there. We're influenced, it's just convergent designs, right?
Yeah, it is convergent. What's interesting to me, though, is Lilith. So sometimes I like these pieces. If you could show the audience that piece again, if that's okay.
Yo, Lilith? Yeah.
Yeah. So she has a big-ass cape. What do you call it? The cape?
Yeah. It's like a flesh cape, but yeah.
Yeah, is there an official name for that?
I don't know.
Flesh cape? Anyway.
No.
But whose whole, like... Is she
you got to see the cinematic. She's just been summoned through a gate that's been assembled by coagulated blood from sacrificed thralls, and then she kind of like comes down from the gate, so her throne's cape's attached to that, basically. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool then.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I don't know if it was...
Have you not seen that trailer? It is insane. Like that's sold the game entirely. I'll link it to you afterwards. It is incredible.
Okay.
Like Blizzard never misses with their trailers. It's kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
In a way.
That's fair. Oh, and Zilphia said they might have to make it a movie night of Mazes and Monsters with their buddy. Yes, please spread the gospel of Tom Hanks. It's almost certainly the worst movie Tom Hanks has ever done. I think. One more great before we move on. One more great detail about that movie. The movie is called Mazes and Monsters, but there's a Japanese title for it.
Yeah.
And you would think that maybe it's, Meiro and, Bakemono or whatever, Mazes and Monsters Japanese. But no. In Japanese, the movie is called, like, Tom Hanks's Great Labyrinth Adventure or something like that. It's some ridiculous title. Man, Japanese title. So yes, so that is Tom Hanks no Daimeku Michi. Anyway, the Great Labyrinth of Tom Hanks. It's called in Japanese. And it's ridiculous. So if you can watch it in Japanese, Zilphia, please, I recommend that too. Let me know how it is.
Wait, why would you want her to watch it in Japanese?
Because it's funnier, right? It's
with the dub?
No, subtitles. With the Japanese dub. Yeah,
that's even okay.
If you can find the Japanese dub of it, because we watched the English version, but the Japanese dub would be much desirable. So yes, if you're just joining our stream and you play Dungeons & Dragons, watch the 80s or 70s movie, The Great Labyrinth of Tom Hanks, aka Mazes and Monsters, featuring the worst Tom Hanks you'll ever see in your life. It's the best. Oh, that's not true. He was pretty bad in that Elvis movie. But that's a different movie. He was pretty bad. He can't keep a good accent and a southern accent. But yes, those are two bad movies of Tom Hanks. Right. So what are we doing today?
Well, first I've got some artwork to show off.
Oh, please. Yeah. So that's what we're talking about today.
In case you're new here, we're working on a new Celtic sourcebook for our game, Legends of Avallen. And that's also going to be compatible with 5e. And this podcast that we do kind of just details everything we're doing to create that project, including how we run Kickstarters, how we do game design, how we do art and that kind of thing. And so often I'll just show off new things that have come in, and this is a new piece of artwork that has come in through the pipeline. And it is amazing. So what's going on here then? So our artworks at the moment are currently doing like a two-sided kind of thing to them, because previously in our books, we've had our artwork across double spreads. In this book, we're going to have them on. We're going to have more artwork, but it's going to be on single pages instead. And how that's kind of worked out with one of my lead artists is that he'd rather do two pieces within one if they share an environment than do two individual pieces with different environments. So I've been getting creative and finding ways to put multiple artworks together in one piece. And this artwork shows off two things. First is a battle with an Avallen. An Avallen is one of our Feaseeker. These are the great mythological titan beasts that once ruled the land before the humans came to power and banished them back into the other world. And in so doing, some humans became gods, which then led the clans of Avallen in our Celtic world. It's a similar story and tale to the Formians in Irish mythology. If you're familiar with that at all, the Irish came to Ireland and found a land inhabited by tyrannical giants, and they defeated those giants to then take over Ireland. So this is a Avallen. This is our water beast, our water demon. This is based on myths from Wales. The Avallen is a Welsh mythological creature. It has a variety of descriptions in the stories and tales, ranging from a beaver to a crocodile-like creature to something that's very serpent-like. And we just kind of amalgamated all those things together, along with some drawings from Pictish stones, and created this monstrosity. So this is our first real big depiction of an Avallen, which I'm excited about. The key power that the Avallen has, other than that it's a water predator, is that when it closes its eyes, it becomes invisible. So it can't see you, but you can't see it. However, it has all these kind of like tentacles and other sensory things on how to find you, even though it can't see. So yeah, it's a terrifying creature.
By the way, if you heard all the sirens in the background, that was someone in Wales dealing with an Avallen as we speak.
Yes.
So, actually, we heard a couple like before we started this chat. There were like 2 or 3 rounds of sirens going by. Man, someone's getting chased down by the popo in your area.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So again, also a baby Avallen is featured in the opening short story of the core rule.
Yeah.
This is a fun monster. And is there any other game aside from ours that has an Avallen in it? Have you ever come across?
Yes, I have, but that's only because I live in Cardiff in Wales, and there's another chap who lives here who makes a miniatures game. I think I told you about it before. Oh gosh, now the name's blanking on me. Forbidden Psalms is the name of the game. And because he is Welsh and he's familiar with folklore, he included an Avallen in his game as well. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So the two of you then.
Yeah, but it's very difficult to find artwork for an Avallen. If you search for Avallen artwork on the internet, and that is AFANC or ADDANC, it's very difficult. There's only like a few pieces that exist, and this will now be one of them. I hope also another key thing about this illustration as well that we hope to get across, although it might be confusing, is that there's water on the ceiling. The sky is water, and here there is none. And the Avallen is bursting out of the water in the sky. Huh? Yeah.
Yeah. So the other world, this is we're assuming it's the Pen Levi, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Which is connected to the sea culture, the ocean, so on. So it's like we're assuming that the heroes walk through a portal or whatever through the other world, and the world is the upside down, right? There's the fucking ocean above them instead of below them.
Yeah. And inside that ocean, there are interesting and terrible things that might jump out at you. Yeah, including this Avallen. Yeah. And then the other side of the illustration is for our otherworldly adventures. This depicts, again, I guess it might be a 2-part series where if you were to venture into the Ever-Elder's domain in the otherworld, that's our goddess of secrets and knowledge. In her otherworld, there are labyrinths that you must find your way through to get to her courtly domain. So in the background here, you can see what looks kind of like a strange palace or structure that you might be trying to find your way to. And there's like a labyrinth of corridors here, full of wondrous plants and strange materials. And then once again above it, there is the the sea of the Ever Elder's domain with Morrigan, which are like mermaids and fish and things, and you'll be wandering through these passages trying to get to this palace.
Is the Morgan just like chilling near that Avallen? That's fine.
Well, that's the thing. That's part of the way these illustrations work, is that you won't be seeing the other half, right? So it would be from here down. Sure. So the illustration will be split between different pages in the book.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still gonna make a story that they're going for help.
They're going. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
And oh shit, it's a oh shit. All right, we gotta go do something about this.
I guess I can also show off like the concept art beforehand as well, right?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
For your award-winning artists.
Yeah.
Award-nominated artists.
Yeah. Here's how we get here, right? This is my work in comping things together to explain. These are different ideas that we had for the illustration, right? So one here is there's a pathway that's made by water. So the water are the walls of the labyrinth, essentially. And inside that water, you might see more again, and then that water transitions into a huge wave, and the Avunks coming out of the water, and the heroes are on like an island of rocks here fighting. Obviously, we didn't go with that. Then there is this version, which I think is you're kind of walking in water, everything is water, and then it transitions to a wave, and again, they're on a rock. And then here's the version we did end up using. Which, as you can see, water is at the top, there's no water at the bottom, and then the Avunks coming out of the top in a swirling wave, and they're fighting it. So this is the kind of stuff that I send to my artists to try and get the awesome artwork out of them.
I don't know, you could just printed that.
Yeah. And then here's concepts or designs for the Avunk. I like this one.
It's kind of Lovecraftian.
Yeah, and then this one, and then I think we kind of ended up using a combination of them. That happens often. There's an early sketch, another early sketch, and then this is my edit of like putting things together and adding in the tentacles on the back, and then my edit again showing him how to be, and here's a work in progress version. Yeah.
When you so nowadays when you're doing your reference images, are you doing Google image searches? Is Pinterest is not useful anymore, I hear?
No, I still use Pinterest. I think they've actually cracked down on AI art. Like they've kind of done their best to mitigate it. You can tag things as AI now, and I believe that they kind of removed them from searches. They don't want AI art on their platform, and they're doing their best to mitigate it. So I'm still finding it useful, yeah.
Then someone's gonna step up and say, well, we'll show you, and they're gonna make their own AI Pinterest. And then it's just gonna all gonna look the same anyway, so whatever.
Yeah, no one will use it, exactly.
Yeah. What I really like about this piece too is I guess mostly blue, but the subtle touches of like yellows and like red, like all the little color accents and the flowers and stuff, which I think help like make it terrestrial, which I really like.
Yeah, well, part of I mean, that's Raphael, my artist, doing a really good job, because when I send him the brief for the artwork, as time has gone on, he's always asked me to give more and more context, and now I just give him basically everything. And so, like, I copy and pasted our description of the Ever Elders domain in the other world, and in it featured the Pen and Vunk wear the masks, right, and they have bioluminescent inks on them that are found from flowers that are super rare or only found in the other world. And so he took that and was like, okay, well, there should be really colorful luminescent flowers here then that look strange. So that's what he did.
Oh, nice. That's a big brain move. Nice.
Yeah, he does that all the time. He's amazing.
Oh, dude, that flower looks gnarly.
What does?
The red one. There's like that red flower, that's really pretty.
What does? Oh.
The right too. Yeah, that one. It's like a red lotus or something. Yeah. Whatever that is.
Yeah. Okay, but here's also another thing as well. Is I did this eye. This is me. I am the artist here.
Man, you.
Yeah, just a little thing. So sometimes things just don't work out, and it's hard to communicate exactly what's going on. For example, I guess this was the original final version of the artwork. Actually, no, I lie. Let me go back again and Is there another version? I'm getting sidetracked here now. But yeah, okay. So this was the original final version of the artwork. And when I looked at it from afar, it looks like the creature's eyes closed. Like it's diving out with its eyes closed. Which
would make it invisible.
Well, so yeah, two things. One, I mean, that could be possible. I mean, it looks like I can imagine a creature closing its eyes before it dives out at something. I think actually real animals do that sometimes to protect themselves. But it just looks a little bit silly and a bit strange. You want it to be more menacing, right? And then two, yeah, in the lore, it would then be invisible. So that's a problem, right? So I said this to him. I said, can you make it more obvious that its eyes open and that it can see? And he was like, yeah, sure. Let me just change that for you. And then he did this version. And like, yeah, he's added a slit. He made the eye like brighter, but it still looks the same color as its skin. It's honestly hard to tell. And so then instead of like, well, he's kind of done with the illustration now. I can fix this myself. So I made this version where I basically just highlighted that area, changed the hue, and then made the eye slit much larger to make it more obvious. And I think that works, right?
Should his eye be yellow?
I tried yellow. It didn't look as good. Oh, you said in lore?
Aren't their eyes yellow in lore? Like,
I mean, we can find. I mean, if there is one that has yellow eyes in lore, doesn't mean all of them have yellow eyes in lore. I don't think we established that as a thing.
It's genetic.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. Sure. Yeah. And also that other Penafon, because I feel like I made the eyes yellow in the original short story, but that was also in the Pen lands, not in the Pen lands. Sure. And it was a baby. So. Yeah. And I change color all the time, so that's fine. Yeah. But anyway, it looks cool. I understand that decision to make it more obvious and also give it more contrast. So yeah, it's good. It's good. Cool monster, and man, should we get that would be a cool miniature. Yep. That would make a cool miniature.
I know, dude. So that was don't even say I did have someone lined up to make the minis for the Feaseeker, the Avallen, the Drake, and the Giants and everything. But it kind of fell through, so that's going to be for the next project, I guess, future.
Yeah. We have a first-time chatter, Desmar Sama. That seems like a real name for someone that would follow our stream. Yeah. I exist here now. Apologies in advance. No, you don't have to apologize for your existence. I think it's fine for you to materialize, and do your thing. Yeah. As you materialize, share with us why you would apologize for existing in our world, and then we can make it.
Also, you say that like maybe you've existed somewhere else previously that we're in. Are you in the Discord or something like that? Should we recognize your name, or do we know who you are? If so, give us a shout. If not, welcome. Desmar,
you're just making me use the respectful honorific, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. Yeah. You could call me Kato-kun. That's what I prefer. So yes, we just showed some art about one of the baddest ass monsters in Valak lore, which is Valak being our in-world term for Celticness.
Yeah, the native peoples of the land of Avallen. Yeah, our Celtic realm.
And today we will be talking about, here's the thing, and today we'll be talking about the Celtic people, in terms of the things they can do.
Yeah, so let me go back to screen share, I guess. So for our book, Faeseeker's Guide to Avallen, there will be character origin abilities for each of the 5 clans. I guess so we do a little recap, introduce the 5 clans again.
Yes. Yeah. So the 5 clans, one of those monsters you just saw, and the monster that Darren just showed you with the big boar, they are the giant monsters that existed and were killed by the gods of these clans, and eventually the descendants of these, or the tribal descendants of these gods, became the great clans that we know as today. And there are 5 of them, and they're kind of related to the family, like almost like a household. So there's the Pen Levi in the mountains, which is the clan of the Everfather. There's the Pen Levi in the forests, who is the clan of the Evermother. There are the Pen Levi in the swamps, whose lands were really fucked up by a really bad monster called the Muklevi. And that is the clan of the Ever Stranger, who is the god of death. So your family, your family is only as relevant in contrast to the people that aren't in it, and that's what the Ever Stranger is. There's the Penavunk, the clan of the monster we just saw, and they are the clan of the Ever Elder, and they're the clan of mysteries, and they're the weirdos, and then I mean they're all kind of weird in their own way.
Yeah.
And then there's the Pen Cower, and the Pen Cower means giant, and they are the clan of the Everchild, and they take up the plains. But in recent decades, they have sort of been parts of the clan and tribe have been making alliances and melding with the Raxian invaders, which is our world's equivalent to the Roman settlers coming from the Raxian Empire. And yes, those are the 5 clans related to the 5 gods, served by their respective and their fairy courts. So there's also the fair folk that serve them in the other world, and there's a whole cosmology we're developing for people who pick up this book, so they can see how fairies and the other world, Unwin, relate to the gods.
Yeah.
Was that okay?
That's a pretty good summary, yeah. And I guess I can show off what these people look like as well.
And it comes from Desmar Sima. Funny enough, not the honorific. It was an edgy teen. He accepted to write a book. One of the main characters was Desmar, last born son to the House of Sama. Oh, okay. So it's just that's a nice coincidence. Yeah. Nice coincidence. So there you go.
Yeah. In case you don't know, Kurt lives in Japan, and I met him in Japan. So
yeah, I'm currently streaming from Japan, and there's a typhoon passing through. So if something happens in Japan, please pray for me. Get Marsama.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing is, just a quick note: you attempted to write a book. You should go revisit it and try to do it again, because you never know what'll happen when you revisit something from your teens and mess with it. All right, so go ahead. So these are the people.
Yeah, so we can show what they look like. So these are the Pen Levi. This is a selection of folk from the Pen Levi Forest clan. We have a hermit here, a priestess, a warrior, and the queen, Bren Daedica. And you can see obviously they have this kind of forest theme to them, greens, lots of flowers and things like that. Then we can also see who would be next? The Penavunk folk. These are the Island Chain Sea Clan. They're marked by the fact they wear masks to hide parts of their face, and they have these bright dyes found from rare plants that they can only find in their land. They are quite mysterious people that value secrets. They're very much across the sea, and then they visit, and they like to keep to themselves. And
it's kind of like weird. They look like weirdos, right? The other clans are kind of weirdos. But they're interesting, and they're kind of like whimsical, and they're secretive, and they value secrets. So
yeah. And then this is the Pendrike clan, the Slayers of Dragons, who reside in the mountains. They are unique in that they have kind of 4 prominent tribes amongst them. They each have their own king or queen. They wear a lot of furs because they live in the mountains, although this in that case is half naked. Here's some of the leaders of those people.
And
yeah, go on.
So one thing to note about our world too is that it's all kind of inspired by Welsh mythology, but it's also inspired overall by Celtic mythology. So in some way too, you have inspirations from like the other Celtic cultures as well.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, like British, Irish, Scottish, Brythonic, Isle of Man, Cornish. Yeah.
Yeah, but our dominant influence is Welsh, and then it's colored by the other Celtic mythologies.
Yeah.
So that's just a note of our approach to Celtic mythology.
Yeah, and then that brings us to the Pen Levi. This is the swamp tribe. They are known to be the vicious raiders. They're the Pen Levi are our depiction of what the Romans thought the Celts were, or at least what they wrote about them. Being kind of this savage, head-taking culture that, has no culture, and it is ruthless in their ways. and the Pen Levi are like that because their environment demands it of them. It's a harsh living where they can't grow much resources, and so it's much better for them to steal it from others. And then I don't know. I think we're both kind of favoritism towards the Pen Levi because they're very misunderstood and they also look badass. So yeah.
Yeah. They're and in a way that's the sort of so Celtic history and culture is kind of complex, right? Because they didn't write shit down, right? And
Yes.
a lot of what we know about the Celts was from the mouths of their enemies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when we think about how we're described the Celt, and you want to be, and the kind of savagery, the sort of barbarous nature or whatever, that's obviously you have to take that with a grain of salt, and because it's from their enemies. But at the same time, there's a certain respect to it, and if you want to be that kind of Celt, you're serviced in terms of the cultures we've sort of given you archetypes for. And so I'm very fond of Pen Levi. We released a short story not too long ago called Vessels that you can find on the website, and it depicts a Pen Levi raid on a fishing vessel. So go to Legend of Avallen. It's on adderstonegames.com.
.co.uk.
.co.uk. Thank you.
Yeah.
And look for the short story if you're interested in this class.
I mean, I think if you search for it on Google, if you just search for Adderstone Games Vessels on Google, you can find that short story. Yeah.
Yeah. And Desmond Summon says also working on a D&D book is what brought me to the stream. Oh, you prefer D&D streams that aren't just a campaign or session, and you've got some really interesting stuff here. Glad you found the channel. Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you a lot. That's kind of what we're trying to do. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're running a. Please visit the site for the book. It's called at adderstonegames.co.uk, and it's for a Faeseeker guide at Avallen, which is what we're writing for right now, and we're going to be having a Kickstarter this fall. We're hoping, anyway.
Yeah. But if you go to our YouTube, which is linked on this page as well, we have like the whole playlist of everything we've done so far. And if you're ever interested in doing Kickstarter and things like that, we also have streams where we've talked about kind of behind the scenes preparation of getting ready to run Kickstarters and things like that as well, related to our role-playing game books and everything. We're kind of discussing everything here. Game design, art direction, book production, Kickstarter stuff, everything.
I pinned our site. I should do this at the beginning of every chat. Actually,
that's probably a good idea. Yeah, nice idea. All right, so what do we? Go on. You say something?
So so we're doing live game design and talking about stuff and showing that humans can do it.
As opposed to AI.
As opposed to AI or whatever. Like, we like this stuff and it's worth doing and it's fun to share. So we hope you feel the same way and hopefully inspires the stuff that you make as well. Desmar says their stuff is mostly player options, 26 subclasses, and races, 10 backgrounds, handful of feats, eldritch invocation, etc. A bunch of spells and works. Yeah, this book kind of plays in a similar space, but geared towards Celtic mythology and their options and so on. And that's exactly what we're going to design today.
Yeah. So what are we doing today? So our book kind of introduces two main features for players. The first we've talked about a lot in our previous streams, which is you could become a Faeseeker. These are heroes that have earned the favour of a god and their Fae courts, and then swear a pact of allegiance to a particular Fae court to gain the powers of their Fae for as long as they remain in good standing. And that's kind of an extra subclass you put onto your other features of your character. And the other main feature that we're introducing as well is new character origins. Now for Legends of Avallen, which is our main game, which uses the Songs of Iron and Stone system, we originally didn't have character origin abilities. In fact, I can show you what we have. It's our game. It's a card-based game that emphasizes creativity and teamwork. The game starts you off as a humble tribe folk with basically no powers, just a profession ability like shepherd or blacksmith or merchant, that kind of thing. Then you progress and go out into the world and quest, and then you learn how to use magic and fight. So the game begins you from your backstory. You're literally zero, and then you become an adventurer later on. We want to have you tell the whole story. So when we made a character, you get to choose your starting profession, which chooses your starting ability. And we gave you a choice of clans. All the 5 clans are here, as well as Raxian origins, but they didn't give you abilities. They just gave you a description, that kind of thing. And so we want to add a mechanical benefit to being in a particular clan to the game. And another key part of our book is that it will be 5e compatible as well, or at least the newest edition of 5e. And in that new edition of 5e, they're introducing character origins. So we're basically taking these ideas in our game and adding them to the 5e conversion of it. And that will include new origin abilities for whatever clan you pick for your starting character. So today we're going to be working on one particular clan, and then if we have time, we'll do some other ones as well, I guess.
Yeah, and I think part of the idea is that if obviously we love people to play in our world, but if you're playing in another world that's medieval fantasy and so on, you can use one of these clans as like your tribe and port it to a different campaign setting, whatever, if you needed to. Yeah. Forgotten Realms, that would be like the Moonshade Isles would probably be the closest equivalent, right? Yeah, something like that.
So we want clan abilities for each clan. So I did some work previously, and I guess maybe I shouldn't read through all of it, or that's not that long. We should just talk about where my head is at. So my thoughts were we have 5 clans, and then we might include the Raxians as well as a 6th kind of origin. And obviously, I wrote here the abilities below are designed. Yeah, so each clan's abilities should obviously reinforce what you imagine them to be. And for the Pen Levi, they have a fierce reputation of being raiders that are very familiar with death, that survive in a harsh environment, right? That's what you would get from growing up as a Pen Levi, right? And then what I've designed is a very simple format. So these origin powers, they're just these. We don't want to power creep our game too much. And also, origin abilities in 5e generally aren't that particularly powerful either, though they can be a little bit game-changing in some senses. They're not the strongest things in the world. And so these things have to be weak, as in not game-changingly powerful, but still interesting. But most importantly, they should be flavorful, right? They should make you feel like you're a Pen Levi. Like, I can do this because I'm a Pen Levi. You can do that because you're a Pendraig, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like when you take the ability, you're like, this is my archetype, this is my background, this is the kind of character, cool guy, or whatever, whatever your concept, your story is.
Yeah,
it can fit into that.
And we still want the focus to be the profession powers, because that's like your main starting ability that you choose. That's going to be your most impactful thing in gameplay. I don't think I want these to be in a place where, like, if you want to play a thief, or you want to play like a roguelike character, well then you have to choose the Pen Levi because they have this power. You know what I mean?
Right.
We want it to be flexible and not so strong that it encourages, like, we don't want all wizards to be Penavunk, for example. I think that would be bad.
And this is the tricky part about game design, right? Like, things that are subtle and underpowered are way harder to design than shit that's OP.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a challenge. It's fun.
Yeah. So I've come up with an idea that works, that is very broad and applicable, but I'm worried that it's boring. But maybe that's okay because it's just a starting little ability. So that's what we're going to discuss today, is what I've come up with and what you think about it, and what chat thinks about it as well.
Yeah, and if you have any ideas, keeping in mind the sort of limitations on the power that we're looking for, right?
Yeah.
Which is part of it.
And obviously, if you're not familiar with our system, you can obviously give ideas in 5e as well, and we can convert it into our system too. That's fine as well. So I said, what did I say? The ability format is simple and will be the same across all clans. That's the current idea that I have. We could change it. I said that isn't ideal, and the reason why I said that isn't ideal is because I feel like sometimes you want something to be special. You don't want everyone's clan's abilities to look the same. But that's what they are at the moment. And I said that isn't ideal, but it does make them way easier to design, which means I can do multiples for each clan. So that's an idea that I've had as well, is that instead of having one ability for each clan can have multiple abilities that you could choose from. So what did I say here? I said allowing us to tie them to different factions within a clan and give players a choice. for example, preventing all Pen Levi being the same. And there's a quote from a player: "I don't want to be an intimidating Pen Levi, I want to be a sneaky one." So if we had an ability for the Pen Levi that makes them especially intimidating, which they are, well, that means every Pen Levi character would have that ability. But what if someone doesn't want to be that kind of Pen Levi? Well, there's another choice for them. So I'm kind of that intrigues me. It's giving more players options within a clan as well. So I said, what else did I say? I said, lastly, I do like that the way they are worded implies other players can do these things to gain advantages too. Okay, this will make more sense in a second. Teaching you how to play Legends of Avallen. Okay. Yeah, so what did we say here? First ability, Death's Visage. Whenever you use your appearance or familiarity with death to intimidate or frighten someone, if it would gain you an advantage against them, you gain 2 advantages instead. So in our game, Legends of Avallen, you can get multiple advantages for a check, which is obviously different from 5e and other games. And this is saying that, yes, you're a Pen Levi, you embody the Everstranger, god of death, and you have these appearances that are quite intimidating. You have a reputation for being ferocious, and so whenever you use your appearance, familiarity with death, to intimidate someone or frighten them, if you'd be an advantage, you gain another advantage instead. So that basically just makes you better at doing this thing, right?
This is what we call a replacement effect in Magic game design.
Yes. So, and here's the key thing, is that you'll soon realize that I've just done everything as a replacement effect, and it's the same, it's just different context, and that's what we're going to talk about to begin with, I think. So the second ability is Swamp Stalker. Whenever you paint your body with mud, chalk, or other materials to blend into an environment, if it would gain you an advantage to avoid being seen, you gain 2 advantages instead. So you'll see here it's the same formatting, just a different context. And then finally, Nomad's Vigilance. Whenever you pay attention to your surroundings rather than focusing on anything else, if your anticipation would gain you an advantage against any sudden danger, or for an initiative check, you gain 2 advantages instead. So what's going on here? I've basically come up with a simple idea, which is if you would gain an advantage, you gain 2 advantages instead. This is simple in that it's very easy to implement. It works in our game very well. It's not too broken or overpowered because we gain advantages all the time in our game. And it encourages an understanding of how advantages work and that you can get multiples from the get-go. And then the first part of it is the flavorful, context-dependent part where it reinforces that, yes, I'm a Pen Levi, I'm particularly good at this one thing, but it also encourages roleplay. It doesn't just say, whenever you hide, it says, no, whenever you paint your body with mud and chalk or other materials to blend into an environment. So you have to do something in the world that feels like you're a Pen Levi, right? And same here, whenever you use your appearance or familiarity with death to intimidate or frighten someone. It's not just whenever you intimidate someone, it's whenever you use your appearance or familiarity with death. So it has to be, you have to do something Pen Levi. And the final thing that I like about this is that, as you can see, it's very easy to make a whole bunch of these, which means we can make multiples for every clan. And a bunch of different ideas. It would be easy. The other side of it that I don't like is that it has the same format every time. So maybe none of them are going to feel special. They're not going to feel unique. You might start to glaze over them as a player looking into them. Yeah, I don't know. So that's my thought. That's my initial, and not my initial, this is my 3rd iteration, but this is why I've ended up. What do you think? Tell me everything, ask me questions, and chat as well. Feel free to chime in.
Yeah, chat, please talk about it. So something that come to mind is I don't necessarily mind the fact that they all have the same sort of output because the inputs are so different.
Oh, really?
And the inputs,
cool.
And then, well, yeah, in the sense of like, okay, you take like any role playing game, it's supposed to be a minor ability. The classic is +1, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You get +1 to whatever, but that's like that's iconic in a way, and thing this is arguably better than +1. Is that right? Would you say?
Yeah, and I think if I would port these into 5e, it would be like you gain an extra 1d4 or something like that. Yeah, because you can't get multiple advantages in 5e, so you have to give something else. That would be mine.
Well, you can't roll 3d20s?
Apparently not, no.
Cowards. Stop being cowards. First of all, number 1, stop being a coward. Wizards Ghost. Secondly, yeah, like especially for intro abilities. I mean, okay, like you're right. It might be something like. Right now, we're sort of at the beginning of this because we haven't designed them all, right? And we're still figuring it out. And it could be that more space occurs to you as you design.
Well,
right?
I have a bunch of other ideas that I've got below. This is where I thought was best at the moment, but I can show you the other design space ideas I come up with as well afterwards.
Right. But it being a different input and different output could be okay.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing being whether or not you have, let's say you did have some different outputs that you wanted to play around with, but each of the clans had a different output. Like you had one of each, right? One gives extra advantages, one gives so and so output, and another one gives another output, and you make it symmetrical. But the problem there is that you have to test that really well, because if one is more powerful than the others, then people will just ignore the other two. And
I think
go for the more
from that, what I would do actually is if we had other output ideas, we would have each clan have one of each, if you see what I mean. So one would be extra advantages, one would be some kind of passive thing, and one would be I don't know what, but yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about. But you have to make sure that they're just well balanced. Otherwise, it's easy to just err towards the overpowered one, right? Are you saying that you would have them all have it at once?
Yeah, I would say so. If let's say we had output A, output B, output C, I would have each clan would have an ability that gives output A, and then so the Pen Levi would have one that gives output A, another one that gives output B, and another one that gives output C. So all clans would have access to it probably, and there'll be a choice within the clan. So then that would avoid that balance problem. Then the balance problem could be that one ability amongst each clan is always the best one, but that's not then too much of a problem because it's not making everyone always be the Pendrake, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
The other, I don't know. I had a thought on the tip of my brain, and it's starting to slip away. Well, okay. I don't mind. Overall, I think it can be. Okay. Oh yeah. Here's my stupid question. So basically, you're born a Pen Levi,
yes,
or a Pen, whatever, and you have one ability. Can you get the other two abilities later if you do stuff with your clan? If you really wanted to?
I mean, I hadn't considered that. I mean, you know what? It's like one of those things where I want to say no, but I don't see a reason why not. And that's something, you could include. You could be like, I mean, that also opens up to other things as well. So say like you grow up amongst the Pen Levi, right?
Well, you get married into the Pencower.
Pencower, and you live in the Pencower lands for some time. Then you get a different one. Or if everyone spends, like, once the adventuring group assembles, and they spend most of their time in the Pendrake clan lands doing adventures there, then why can't they all gain a Pendrake ability? Like, I'm not against the idea. And maybe instead of codifying it in the rules, that's just something that the GM could be in the GM section that says, hey, like, you can also award these origin abilities to people if they spend lots of time in particular places at certain tiers. Like, I'd be open to that. I mean, I'm pretty sure like 5e, the new version of 5e will have that default input because the clan origin abilities in 5.5e will be basically like feats. And I think when you take a feat, you could also take another origin feat because I think they are basically feats. So you could take other ones in the future as well. So that will be built into 5.5e. So we could do something similar, I guess. We could make it so that if you took another ability, whenever you learn an ability, you could take another origin if you've gained enough standing with those people. That could be a thing, So that's not... it's a good idea. Hadn't considered it.
That could be... And then the other thing is, would that lead to someone trying to min-max and be like, I'm just going to be in every clan, so I can believe from every clan?
Well, that's fine. You can min-max whatever. I mean, that's part of gaming, isn't it, really? Yeah.
It can be, sure. You're right. Yeah. That seems.
But I don't think. But the thing is, because these are starting abilities, I don't think they'll be particularly powerful, right? So, I don't think you'll want to take these over other ones.
Now, I'm curious to see, some of the other outputs you thought about and whether or not I had about them.
But so
basically,
go on. Sorry, you go first.
It doesn't necessarily put me off that they all have the same output. But I could also see it being argued that, if you had a different output for 3 different abilities for each clan, in the abstract, that's more interesting if they're balanced. But it really depends, I guess, on what else there is.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so I'm quite pleased that you had this response to it. I was very worried you're going to say, no, it's boring, and you don't like it. Yeah, this is good.
I mean, if you're in the chat and you're like, no, I want more outputs, there are the varied outputs, and please pipe up, because, you guys are the ones we're making for. Yeah. But that's my initial thing, anyway.
Yeah, it's good. And I like it because, like I said, it's very deep. We can make loads of these, and... because, like, you can, like, even this one, for example, whenever you use your appearance or familiarity with death to intimidate or frighten someone, we could do intimidate or frighten someone, but change it for the Pen Levi and be like, whenever you use your prowess with weapons or your bulging muscles to intimidate or frighten someone, right? And it's basically the same thing, but it's still totally different, right? So the design space for these is, like, basically almost infinite. Like, we can make loads of these, and it's not a problem. And we can do that going forward for future cultures and things like that. So it's very, very deep. That draws me towards
also, have we used this language somewhere else in the game system yet? I'm trying to recall.
No, I don't think we have done. If you would gain an advantage, gain 2 instead. That hasn't happened.
So that's just like a totally... Yeah. That's also an interesting design space of, like, gain 3, gain 4 if we wanted to, right?
We have done this before. Whenever you would do this, get this. That's happened. But the second part has not, no. Okay, so the other ideas that I came up with is a whole bunch. And I guess I grouped them by, I said the Pen Levi mechanical things are survival, ruthlessness, and sacrifice. And then I just basically came up with a bunch of designs in those spaces. And see what I came up with this. So what have we got here? I wrote these months ago, so these are fresh to me as well as to you. Once per day, when you break your equipment to change the result of a check, you gain an edge. So
now, can you explain an edge
and breaking equipment?
And breaking.
Yeah. So in our game, Legends of Avallen, your equipment is very much part of the resolution system, and whenever you make a check that involves your equipment, if you would fail or if you would be harmed, you can break your equipment to change the result of a check. But then once you've done that, obviously, you can't use your equipment anymore. And that's tied into our professions as well, which are a core part of the game. And that there's a crafting profession, they can repair equipment. So it's very important you have a crafter in your group so they can repair your stuff. And a consequence of that as well is we don't have HP in our game, for example. Instead, we have like a 3 strikes in your out system where your character can exert themselves, which makes them tired. Then you have to rest to get that resource back. You can break your armor, but then it's broken and it can't defend you anymore, and then you become wounded. So how fights usually work out is you become exerted, you break your armor or a shield, and then you become wounded, and then you kind of want to retreat. So it's kind of like a 3 strikes and you're out. And each strike takes something away from you that then matters in the game and in the narrative and the mechanics and everything like that. You're going to go.
So rather than spending 10 rounds or whatever and rolling dice to nug a monster for 5, 10 points, whatever.
Yeah, and literally nothing changes except the number goes down. The fight doesn't change at all.
You're encouraged to... It's almost cinematic in a way, right? Like, you're quickly breaking as Indiana Jones, flicking his whip with all his might and succeeding, but it breaks, and then he can't rely on it for the rest of the scene.
Yeah, exactly. So, and if you're fighting the dragon, you take out its wings, and now it can't fly. You break open its scales, and now it's vulnerable, and then someone can go in for the killing blow. That's how it works, yeah.
So that gives you some context for the previous abilities, especially, which is you're really encouraged to think narratively and within the scene and with the other players. And so you are constantly thinking about how to gain an advantage based on the environment and the story and the characters involved and so on.
Yeah, sometimes in our game it's a lot better for everyone to work together to get one person to succeed than everyone to try and succeed by themselves. And that encourages like teamwork and creativity, like we mentioned before. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. And then so that was break your equipment, and then an edge is I want to make sure that this is, because I've seen other iterations of the edge, and but the edge in the current Legend of Avallen is a face down card you have that you can use for a future check. Yeah.
So an edge is basically an extra advantage that you can use in the future for any check that you like, and you get those whenever you fail usually. And so this rule is saying that, well, if you would fail a check, you gain an edge. But if you fail a check, you could also break your equipment to make it a success instead. And this is saying that if you do that, you still gain the edge. And that's just tying into the sacrifice and I guess the survival instincts of the Pen Levi, basically. What else do we have here? We say once per short rest, when you break your equipment to succeed, you gain an edge. That's just me saying that, oh, okay, maybe this one's too powerful. I don't know. If it is, we can restrict it to once per day, once per short rest rather. Oh, that one is once per day already. Okay, we're saying if that one's too weak, then we could do once per short rest instead. Or it could just be whenever. I don't know why I put that restriction in there. I think it's probably fine without the restriction.
Yeah, you're trying stuff out, you're iterating, you're cooking.
Then we have here, whenever you would wound a foe, you gain an edge. Now this is very narrow, but it's very flavorful, and it sounds cool. Like, you don't actually, I mean, you do often wound foes, but when you wound a foe, they're already getting defeated. So I guess it kind of, it's like a win more kind of mechanic. But it sounds cool, right? So.
Sure. I mean, this could also be whenever you break your opponent's equipment or whenever their hide or whatever breaks. Like, isn't that also a thing you could do?
Yeah,
Does that count as that?
It could be like whenever you break a foe's but then I can say with an attack you gain an edge. But that I don't know. That doesn't sound the same to me. It doesn't read as well as wound, right? That's like very visceral. Sure. Like you're wetting your blade with blood. Yeah.
But that has more to do with the features of English language than what the principles of what you need for game design, right?
Yeah, but like, it's still in world as well. Like, not just words. Like, what does that actually mean? Or when you wound a foe, like I said, you're wetting your blade with their blood. That's like
okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Although I think functionally the first one, breaking their equipment or whatever, is also quite useful. But you're right. It's not
it's
as
more powerful. Yeah, it's more powerful as well.
So I don't. Okay. And there's also abilities that you can give up an edge. Did we talk about that design space about giving up your edge?
Yeah.
To do stuff.
That's the thing as well. You'd sort of gain an advantage. There's some powers that are fueled by having an edge. Yeah.
Yeah. So I could also see that being, with edge as a resource, getting an edge for your basic ability can also be useful.
Yeah.
Although it's like the thing that's not as good about that is like you have to keep track of your edge, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Anyway, so I mean, I'm not against these kind of things either. But then, what you're saying is, are these hard? So these are harder to design.
Yeah. So for example, I can elaborate why. So for example, when you break your equipment to succeed, you gain an edge, right? Once that's designed, you can't design that again. Like to make this a deeper design, like a vein of design, you'd have to say, whenever you break your equipment to succeed in doing X or X, you gain an edge. So like only in a certain circumstance would you gain an edge for doing this, and then we can then do that again for other peoples in the future or in the same book for another clan, and it would be then Y instead, right? But then that makes the ability more narrow and less likely to occur.
Sure.
And more likely to be forgotten as well, because how often do you break your equipment, and then how often do you break your equipment for, I don't know, fighting a person or trying to overcome an obstacle, so yeah.
Now, let me ask you this too. An edge versus gaining 2 advantages. Obviously, the good part about getting 2 advantages is you're doing a thing, and so you want more advantages for doing the action.
Yeah.
But if you were to use that same structure of like whenever you would do so and so or do a thing, you gain an edge for later.
Yeah.
Is there a design space for that where it's like one of the abilities is you do so and so, and whenever you do that action, you gain 2. If you would gain an advantage, you gain 2 instead.
Yeah.
But instead, you say if you prepare so and so, you gain an edge for the rest of the day or something when you do something related, but not for a specific action of breaking equipment or whatever. It's like if it's the Pen Levi or whatever, right? If you were to, whenever you encounter a dead body, you bless its body, you gain an edge for the rest of the day or until the next rest.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're saying instead of like tying it to an action that requires a check, which can grant you edges anyway, you're saying something almost passive that's
that gives you an advantage for later, like in a certain scene.
Dude, that's an interesting idea. I don't think I've got that anywhere. Like, I haven't thought of tying anything to just like things that happen. Yeah. So
yeah, because I like this too in a way, because you have them and some characters want to give up edges in order to get an advantage, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you might want to be the kind of character, but is that too OP? Is that not OP? You know.
Well, let's go back to that idea you just suggested. What was it? Whenever you discover a body or something like that. Whenever you.
Oh yeah, whenever you come across a dead body and you bless it for the Everstranger or something like that, you gain an edge until the next rest.
For the Everstranger. Stranger, you gain.
Because game design wise, what you're really looking for good game design space for these abilities is open narrative concept related to your clan, marginal benefit.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Cool. So when I see this, I think a few things. One, like, it's very evocative, which is great. But two, how often do you come across a dead body? Depends. And then, is that a problem? Probably not. I mean, I want to say yes from like a min-max power perspective, but I think it's so flavorful that when you do come across the body, you won't forget that you have this ability, and you'll be happy to have it.
And you also say like a dead like a carcass or something, right? Because it could be animals too, and it's like a hunter's ability, right? Then it becomes like a person who's used to hunting and scavenging and so on.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Okay. So I'd say instead of whenever you spend I guess some time, whenever you take the time to bless a dead body or corpse, we'll decide if it's animal or just human later. Just human, question mark. Let's know, for the Everstranger, you gain edge.
And similarly, we could probably think of an example for each clan that relates to doing a thing that's evocative for the clan and then gaining an edge until the next rest or the rest of the day, right? Like, that doesn't seem too hard to do.
No, it doesn't. So the other concern I have with this kind of thing is then, what happens if you come across a field of dead bodies?
Sure. Although I'm gonna get so many edges. I mean, you could put a max, right? You can play max 2 edges or something like that if you wanted.
But then it becomes a little bit cruder. But yeah, you could say you could be once per day or once per rest.
Sure.
Once per short rest. But yeah, so I'm kind of okay with that.
That's about it. Yeah. But that's if you can also think of that way you have a similar input structure with a varied output.
Yeah.
But they're both kind of interesting, right?
Yeah. What I like about this as well is that the output's actually very similar to the first one. Like, gaining an edge is an advantage for a future check. It's actually slightly better because it's a little bit more flexible.
Right.
But the input is still very flavorful, but it's very different from these. These are active effects that you do in the moment and you immediately gain an advantage during action. And then this is like a passive kind of, when things aren't happening, things aren't exciting yet, that you're getting ready for them to be exciting, right? Because you have to, quote, take the time. You can't just be, if you're in the middle of a battle and a dead body there, you really need an edge, then I guess you could take some time in the battle, but that's going to be really dangerous, right? You're taking off a turn. That's a waste of time, right?
Let me bless his body real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah. It's not worth it. You'd be better off doing something else, right? So this is something that has to happen when things are calm. Whereas these are things that happen when things are exciting and active. And so that even though the output is very similar, that they feel different enough from the input side. So yeah, I like that. Good work. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. And then it becomes a question of, okay, is there a third type of output? If you have 3 abilities per clan, is there a third output? But the issue we run into is like, okay, well, does it become material and so on? I mean, the other thing is you can make the outputs like for example, like if gaining advantage during action, there could be levels of difficulty, right? Like it'd be like it's easier to gain an advantage in doing the action because it's in the moment, and the other one is rarer but it lasts longer, and the third one is like kind of powerful but rarer. But then that's tricky. Then you're running afoul of like possible game imbalance.
Yeah.
Like for example, what I would love to see if it's balanceable. No, maybe not. Like what I was going to say is what I would love to see is something that helps you with supply, but then by me saying that, that means it's probably going to be OP because that's what I want.
Yeah, because supply is one of our like main resources in the game. So
Yeah,
I say a downside to doing this though is that I actually really like these three ideas. In that I like the intimidation and the hiding. Like there's two very Pen Levi things. I guess I don't really care about the nomads one as much. That was kind of like me reaching, but I really like these two. So it's like, yeah, playing Reverence to death makes sense, but it isn't particularly cool or sexy. That's an issue with this as well, right? It's like, would you take this over being able to hide better, or be intimidating better?
If it okay, like what's the way important to think about it is the evocativeness of it, right?
Yeah.
So like the first one is like someone who's trying to be intimidating. The second one is trying to be someone who's can hide and camouflage. The third one is someone who's like a hunter and or like very attuned. The fourth one is like a more pious version, right? Like, of the thing.
Right. So you're saying that it doesn't really matter. You think that the flavor is what will be the decision point for the player.
I think the top-down aspect of the design.
And you're right. So we haven't given this a name yet. We're not being fair, right? This should have like
like the ever stranger's drinking buddy or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
or
like or I guess like soul guider or something like that. You know, like spirit guider. Or spirit sender.
Yeah.
Something like that, right? That sounds cool. I'm sure you'll come up with a better name than me. You always do. Like FYI for chat, Kurt. I came up with all these abilities, but then I said, Kurt, give me names, and he came up with these names, and they're all amazing. So much better than what I came up with.
I like them so far. Yeah, they're good.
No. You came up with these names. Is what I'm saying.
No, I know. Yeah. I'm happy with so far, but
Okay, well let's browse over the other ability ideas that I had then, because maybe that will prompt you to think of something else.
I'm sorry, and a real quick question.
Yeah.
But we're set on there only being 3 abilities, right? Or
yeah, because like going up to 4 or 5 is just, I don't know, it's just silly. It's like just too many. It's not necessary. I mean, one ability is enough, really. And to be open with people when you're in chat, I think it's likely that we'll just have one ability, and then multiple abilities will be a stretch goal on the Kickstarter, because adding more abilities just means adding more design considerations for every single clan, and it also means more space in the book as well, which also just costs money. So I think it'll likely be a stretch goal, but it's necessary for us now to see if we can develop multiple abilities to see if that's even worth it being a stretch goal, right? If we can't do it, then it'd be silly for us to make it a stretch goal. Yeah. But yeah, going to 5 is too many. I think it's unnecessary. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't mind having a. I guess it depends on what our conception. Anyway, you're probably right. But if they're flavorful, it could be that having a few more. If it fits into an archetype of what a character is, maybe that's okay. But the characters are already different. Clans are already different. So you're probably right. Let's move on. But sure.
Okay, sure. So yeah, we had a theme of breaking equipment, playing with that. But that one's kind of a bit scary because equipment breaking is a big deal. Similar one here, whenever you break equipment, it's a seed for a check. You were advantaged with greater critical success instead. It's probably too strong. Just giving out critical successes is bad. But I kind of coached it by saying, if you succeeded when you were advantaged, which doesn't happen that often, you would fail when you're advantaged, right? Because you're advantaged, so it will happen less often. But anyway, yeah, move on. Even more breaking stuff. Okay, once per day, if you would break your equipment to succeed a check for which you were advantaged more than you were disadvantaged, your equipment does not break. Yeah, again, we're just playing with like equipment break-ins. This kind of helps out with supply and repairing, that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm not so keen on it. Okay, you're advantaged for and against checks that can cause you to become exhausted, sick, or withering. This one doesn't work so well because sometimes you don't know what the outcome of a check will be. Like,
Sure.
And that's just a bit bland passive ability, I think. Once per day, you may give up an edge to cure yourself of overwhelmed, exhausted, or sick. So that's basically saying that the Pen Levi are more hardy than others. This is okay. It does make you sound more survivable. It is actually an ability that gives you an effect in the game that you can immediately know that will be useful. The concern with it is that I guess there's not too much concern with this, really, because there are professional abilities that do this from the get-go. So basically, it's saying there's a healer profession ability. It's basically saying you can use the healer profession ability only on yourself once per day without using supply. Instead, you give up an edge. So that's kind of like not broken because it's already an ability in the game, and you're just saying that you can use it, but it's more restricted. It's only on yourself. So that's kind of like okay, I think. Like that's the space we can play in as well. It's like taking abilities that are already in the game and then making them more restricted just for you, and then that gives players more flexibility. The issue with that is it takes the limelight away from the healer that's in your party because you don't need them, right? But if it happens twice, then you do. So yeah, what are your thoughts with that?
Sorry, I missed that you said what are your thoughts on that, but yeah, I do kind of like it. I mean, I like the idea of that flexibility and survivability, and if that's like someone's really hardy, then I think that's interesting because that's kind of like I could easily, again, from a top-down design perspective, somebody making that part of their conception of like I don't get sick.
Yeah,
slice you there, right? They're like very hardy. I think that could be a fun place to play in. The only issue is that with these conditions is balancing it well, unless, like for example, if every clan had you give up an edge to cure yourself overwhelmed, exhausted, or sick, then that's less interesting to me for some reason.
Do you mean if they have the same ability, or do you mean similar? Like, I'm not sure. I'm not following what you said there. Sorry.
Well, if it's specifically you give up an edge to cure yourself of overwhelmed, exhausted, sick, and that's across multiple clans, that's less interesting. But if it's give up an edge to get this.
Oh yeah, no, it wouldn't be the same for every clan. I'm thinking my proposal is we take abilities that are already in the game for low-level characters like profession starter abilities, and then make them narrower versions of it. So I imagine like another one would be like for the Pen Levi, because they're very good craftsmen. It would be once per day you may repair. You may give up an edge to repair a piece of equipment that belongs to you. Now, that's even more powerful than this one, probably. I mean, I guess technically not, because you can use this in the middle of a fight. This you can't. I guess you say once per day you may take time and give up.
Yeah. But the issue with that, something like that, is the logic of like, sorry, I can only repair my equipment.
But no, I think that's fine, right? Because we'd be like it's your gear, right?
Sure, that's true. I mean, that's fair. Yeah, if we can find spaces like that, then sure, I do think it. I do think it can be pretty interesting, as long as you don't feel it's a kind of a power creep. The other issue though is how to, like, if we're converting stuff, how do you convert that to other games, right?
Well, that's a problem for our other designers' ideas. But I mean, how I've done equipment repairing before in 5e conversions, I'm not actually sure. Yeah, we'd have to change it, so that would be a small issue. I mean, obviously this one is like convertible because you have conditions in 5e, you have advantages as well. You could give something up to gain that. You could do. So here's an interesting thing that just occurred to me. That is kind of like a downfall, not downfall, but a benefit to 5e is that yes, your gear doesn't break and things like that, and that means for these kind of abilities that modify your gear, we would instead say, oh, once per day you could take the time to apply your whetstone to your sword, and give you +1 to hit or the +2 to hit for the first strike in combat. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's actually more exciting than repairing your stuff, right? And so then it makes you think, oh, actually, well, maybe we take that away and we should do that instead, right? Once per day, you can prepare your equipment such that you get an extra advantage when you do a thing. But that's basically these powers again, right? Do a thing to gain a bonus advantage, or that'll be, I guess that'll be the Pen Levi Pendrike version of this one, right? Once per short rest, prepare your equipment to get an edge or something.
And that's fun. I do think that's fun.
Yeah. Although that you can do it anywhere, anytime, whereas this requires a body, right? So there's like a question there.
Sure.
What's the restriction?
Sure.
Yeah.
We think about that. But maybe that's where the game balance usually comes in, right?
Yeah.
They have to have a similar level of applicability or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to talk about the next ability. Well, when you're ready for it.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Kashime. So resourceful. So can you read that one out?
With one beneath it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever you.
Oh, actually, well.
Oh, this one. Which one?
Both of these are interesting. You do not consume supply, and also whenever you consume.
Yeah. So you do not consume supply for your first short rest each day. That again plays into the survivability, and that's kind of strong. It's subtly strong because it basically gives you an extra supply every day. Which probably means it's too strong. But like, if that was a thing, then we could make that the same. Like, we can have a similar power for every clan that also plays into supply, right? And keeping more supply around.
Would it be less? Would it be nerf? Because we often say short rest each day. But what if you said once each? We don't use session in our language, do we? Like once per session?
I'm very against that, actually.
Fair. Yeah. That's fair. Because session's always going to be a different length, and you don't want people who are like, all right, well, we better end the session now and come back next week or something.
Yeah.
I get you. You know, because it's flat for your first short rest. I mean, I don't necessarily mind that. Okay, I wonder how much design space there is for that. Like
supply resources.
Save,
yeah.
By inserting context. Like, for example, if you did the same thing, where like whenever you would use a supply or do an equip that takes a supply for so and so ability, you know, you don't use up that supply or something, you know. So it has the open narrative input.
Well, that's the next one, isn't it? I think whenever you consume or gain a supply for a profession ability, you may reveal the top card of the deck. If it's a court card or any color, or a court card of any color, you gain one supply back. Otherwise, you gain an edge. So there's like gain supply from short rest, gain a supply from use of profession abilities. But then that's kind of it, really. I guess you can scavenge supply as well, or steal a supply. But
sure. Now, is core card until you gain one supply? Otherwise, you gain. In a way, that's more powerful than the previous abilities, right? Because either you gain a supply or you get an edge, which is the output for the other abilities. Anyway.
Yeah.
But it can't just be if you have a core card of any color, you gain one supply.
I mean, it could be, but even that's super strong. It's basically saying whenever you use your profession ability, there's a chance you don't use up supply, and that could be every single time. Like, it's because if you don't use up supply, you can go again. So yeah.
Well, could you change the input on it and make it more like whenever you would do so and so once per short rest? Like, for example, if it was a scavenger, right? You say whenever you would scavenge in a swamp, reveal the top card of the deck. Once per short rest, reveal the top card of the deck, and if it's a court card, you gain one supply. So don't type
but the issue with that is that these clan abilities can't tie to specific professions because you don't know what profession they have, right?
Yeah, I'm not. I guess I'm not saying don't tie it to profession. Tie it to just like the resourcefulness of that clan's domain.
Right. So if you use your ability in a swamp, but then there's going to be whole campaigns where it's never relevant because you're never in a swamp. You know.
Well, okay. Well, that was an example, but is there another?
Oh.
Yeah, you're right. It's hard. I'm just spitballing here.
Yeah, I know you are. Yeah, I know you are. But sometimes the spitballs don't stick, and that's okay. We move on.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay, well, let's say it wasn't with region. Okay, if I were a Pen Levi, right, and let's say I'm any kind of fucking profession, and I want to gain supply, or I'm resourceful in a certain way that's related to my clan, and I get a supply, that can be an interesting ability, but it has to be flavorful. But what does it mean to be flavorful? Because you're right, you don't want to be like in a swamp.
Yeah.
It needs to be. Is there something more general?
Yeah, it'd be like when you scavenge supply from a corpse or something like that, right?
Sure. If you reveal a court card, then you gain a supply.
Extra supply. Yeah.
Yeah, and if it's like the Pen Levi, if it's yeah, it was tricky. Yeah, like coming up with.
So I think if we have a 3, I think I'm kind of my head set off. We need to check something though, and that is we have your idea of like a non-action effect that you take in the calm to gain something for the future. We have the do a thing that's active and gain 2 advantages instead. That's very flavorful and specific to the clan, and then we also have hey, you can use a profession ability, but only for yourself. And that would require me to check the other professions to see if that can play out to other clans. What's on offer here? You go.
There's one other space that we haven't played in yet.
Yeah.
And it's whether or not you think it'd be interesting to temporarily boost a relevant ability stat. Which is a somewhat equivalent to gaining an advantage in certain cases, right? Or just is that too powerful?
It's not too powerful. It is kind of similar to gaining an advantage, and I don't like doing it as well because it kind of changes things on your character sheet. Like if your vigor's boosted for a second, well now your armor's gone up too, right?
Right. Sure.
But yes,
that's fair. I'm just wondering whether that's a space that we could play in without it being game breaking. But
yeah, I think I have done that for I believe for the warrior and the reaver, our martial class types. Each of the so in our game there are 4 broad class types: the warrior, the reaver, the mage, and the mystic. And then there are legendary paths as well, which are like broader, more specific, powerful subclasses that you choose later on. And each class has like kind of like a feat chain, I guess, of abilities that are grouped by a title. And for the martial classes, the feat chain always features a passive in the middle. And for example, for athletics, one of the passives is horse's prowess, and you get +1 to checks made to exploit a foe. And you get +1 to vigor checks made on foot against the environment when running, climbing, etc. Whereas Great Weapon has something different actually. Guardian, no, that has something different too. Where's another example? Bear's prowess. You may use vigor or grapple or push checks made by yourself, and you also get +1 to vigor checks made with your hands against the environment when lifting, climbing, etc. So we've done this kind of space before, so it is in the game, so I'm not against it. This obviously happens every time, so we can't make something that's too similar to that because then it would be too powerful compared to these abilities. But it could be like once per day or once per short rest or something. You get +1 to checks for a specific cause, yeah. But then that's just similar to 2 advantages. Do a specific thing and gain something.
Just do it.
Yeah, you're saying get a power up for a certain period of time, right? Like
yeah,
+1. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's, but going back on that suggestion, in my mind, it's also not necessarily that evocative either. Like just getting like a stab boost line isn't like okay. Part of the reason why I like the resource, we go back to the resourceful ability with the supply.
Sure. Where is it? Resourceful. Whenever you gain a supply, flip a card, and you might gain another one. Yeah.
Yeah. What I like about this ability is not necessarily that it gains you supply. What I like about it is the randomness of it.
Yeah, I know you do. Yeah.
And I think that's fun. And if you had an ability that was kind of a wild card ability. That's interesting to me.
Right, you're saying it's more powerful, but it doesn't always work. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And is that a space that makes sense and is kind of evocative and could lead to, because ultimately what we're trying to do is create interesting play experiences, right? That are fun and interesting.
Yeah.
And that is a sort of modulated output that can be interesting. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It could be like, it reminds you of what was it called? Like Cuckoo Selene's, like however you say his name's Warp Frenzy or something, like a fucking weird thing.
Yeah.
Not OP, but something where if it happened, it's like, oh shit.
So the other side to that, one might argue, and that maybe I would argue, is that putting that much excitement and tension on such a minor ability that you have from the beginning of the game that then lasts for like ever is not the place to stick that kind of thing, right?
Sure.
Yeah, you want it to be attached to something that's more exciting and more core to your character experience or whatever, that kind of thing.
Sure.
But I mean, I think that in the end it just won't be exciting. You just flip a card and be like, oh, I didn't work this time. Oh, it worked this time. Like, I don't think it'll be particularly exciting, but I think it could be a fine way of balancing it as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, going back over all the things we said, yeah, replace with 2 advantages. We're done. We got there.
Well, no. I think going back to what we said before is the profession idea. So now I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, well, the alchemist, right? They make concoctions for themselves to give advantages, right? Well, another way of flavouring that is like the Pen Levi are very good at herbalism, right?
Herbalism, yeah, sure.
So they could make their own personal salves. Now, because there's still a weird question of like, oh, why can't they give that to someone else?
Yeah.
And I guess,
think that.
Yeah, go on.
I think that's the biggest flavor issue. If these are going to be evocative, that's just one of the things where like people are like, well, you know.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That happens all the time, and people don't care. But we try to avoid that, right?
Yeah, the game's representational. I strongly avoid that.
Well, I mean, then we could balance it, and we can just say that okay, it is the exact same rules as concoct a potion, but you don't make a check. You only ever make one, and it still costs a supply, right? Now, is that better than concoct a potion? Well, are you going to do it once per day as well? So we can make like a smaller version of it, and say that you can give it to your friends, but you can only make one. So decide who you're going to give it to.
Yeah, I mean,
the issue with that is that it could be better than the original ability. But go on, sorry.
Right. Yeah, and the other reason to not do that is to not put yourself in too much of a redundant space, right?
Yeah.
Which can be not fun, right? Because let's say you did want to be an alchemist, but then you say to yourself, "Oh well, I'm going to be, Pen Levi," but they already have this kind of potion ability. Well, I guess I should take that ability because I'm an alchemist and an herbalist, so it makes sense flavor-wise, but they're kind of redundant. So
yeah.
That could be fun.
Yeah. I kind of agree. Okay, I'm off it then. I think professional abilities should be unique to professions. Okay.
And you want these abilities that they get to be additional thing. Like you want it to feel like you have a variety of abilities too. They're not necessarily more powerful, but having a variety of things is still interesting. And going to the well of the profession abilities takes away from that, I think.
Yeah. Okay, I agree. In that case, then, where are we? We have the 2 advantage. We have the passive gain edge thing, and then we're kind of at a loss, but maybe something tied to supply that could be more random. Something that we're thinking about.
Yeah, I mean,
or something more game breaking that.
More game breaking. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, that's tricky. I mean, because the other thing you do is if you have 3 abilities, you could just make it different for each clan depending on what they demand, right? And like maybe one clan, just because of how the design, how the evocativeness of it works, they're all the get replacement effects. Yeah. But then the other clan has like 2.
Here's another thing that I had thought of, that I thought I had written down but I hadn't. But it's like, what about some kind of item? Like the Pen Levi. I mean, the Pen Levi, they have the skulls, don't they? Like, what if you have a skull talisman that's been passed down to you?
Okay, so well, no, we call that something else too, right? We have not just what is it called? Like a What's it called? Like for focusing your spells?
Oh, a focus.
No, we don't call them a focus. We call it something else.
Yeah, they're called
They're
focuses. They're called charms.
yeah, I guess
You talk about it mechanically if you're a spellcaster.
yeah.
Yeah, they're called focuses. Well, they've okay. I mean, they have a variety of names. Let me find them. Weapons. They're here. Oh no, maybe they're under armor.
The specific I was looking for.
Oh, muses. They call them muse.
Muse.
Yeah.
Yeah. We used the word muse there, right?
Yeah, charms, amulets, icons, great icons. But yeah, but I'm thinking it wouldn't be an existing item. It'd have to have a more unique effect.
So it's like a holy symbol, like your holy symbol or whatever, or your clan.
Yeah, but it wouldn't. Yeah, it would do something else that's small and unique. But then we're still back to the drawing board of what is that weird unique ability. But I mean, it gives us something more interesting to design around. Like, what would a skull do? We know that in the lore they contain knowledge in the carvings that are put upon them, like history and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And they can also contain souls and spirits, which can also give you information. So it could be like a scrying effect, or it could be just asking a lore effect, or it could just give you a bonus to knowing things, but then that's just kind of going back to gaining advantages again, you know, but it's just slightly more flavorful. But yeah, I'm saying basically there's a space as well of you have this thing with you. That could be another space that we have as well.
And okay, and when you say scrying effect, you mean with like the deck, right?
I don't know. Could be in lore, it could be with the deck as well. That could be a thing. It could be like look at the top card and put it to the bottom if you want to. For a check.
Choose it. What if it's choose a deck, and then you can mess with the Fae tricks deck as well.
Sure. But then it ends up being, okay, so what are the other things that we could do for the other clans in that space? But I think we could have a chance. I'm gonna find the. I have a section on special magical item abilities somewhere, and we can see if we get any inspiration from there.
Page.
Magic items. Here we are. Page 170.
So in your manual,
Yeah.
your volume.
So we have like a bunch of little effects here that could be in the game, so we could have similar things to this.
Sure.
Yeah. So what do you think about that? Like having a talisman that you can use.
So so it's like a family charm, a clan charm, or whatever.
Yeah.
And in terms of how it's evocative for your clan, is it basically the same for each clan, like talisman bearer or something, or?
Oh, I guess.
Is it just, or is it just, or does each clan kind of have its set effect, right? So, for example, booming is related to, when you speak, your voice bellows all around, light shines from behind you. That's related to the Everfather, and so that's what your talisman allows you to do, or whatever.
Yeah. It'd be a single ability for each clan that's different. Yeah, and it would be tied to this little magic trinket that you have. Yeah.
I mean, you could call it you could literally call it the Everfather's muse, or the ever like related to the god, right?
Yeah. It'd be like Everfather's talisman. I think that's fine, or Everfather's trinket, or something like that. Trinket, a magical talisman that's being passed down through your family since times of the sorrows, or so it said. Yours is what would the Everfather's talisman look like? It'd be a rock, right? It'd be like this rock with carbons on it, something.
I mean, we're gonna have symbols for each of the what do you call it, right?
Yeah. So we'll include that on it as well.
Yeah.
So just say a rock. Yours is a rock with Everfather's symbol carved into it once per long rest. You can use it to blah 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 blah.
I mean, I might be inclined to tie them to the since this is a Faeseeker's Guide to Avallen, they can also be artifacts and gifts from like Fae, like Fae, right? Either from a long time or recent, and passed down through family.
Sure.
So the Everfather's blessing through the fairy course, the Tilted or whatever. That could also be
gifted to your family by a goblin.
Sure.
It is a rock. Insert description here. Description here. And then it has an effect like booming or whatever. Now, so an obvious issue for this is that if everyone's from the Pen Levi clan, then they all have this trinket. Like,
well, yeah, that's the tricky part, right? Like, you could also have a range of different abilities from like your trinket has one of these 4 abilities on page 110.
Yeah, but then we're
right.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Like, and they're just minor effects.
Yeah.
And then maybe the ability is also if it's like Fey magic or whatever, like you can also tie it to something so it's not super OP somehow. Or I mean, they're supposed to be minor effects, so I guess it wouldn't be OP in the first place, but maybe there's the chance that not to break, but for it to wear off or be overused or something because it's like fragile.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, so for example, when you look at the minor effects here, we have one called hiding as one of the pretty good ones, and that gives you advantage with checks to hide for as long as you hold the object, and that's just probably maybe too powerful for a starting thing, because up here we're considering just like giving you an advantage one time if you cover yourself in mud, right? So just
right.
being to hide forever. But if it's, you have to have the object in your hand, you have to hold it, and then it lasts until like a Joker is revealed or something like that, until a deck is shuffled.
Then, putting limitations on it in the range and you can use it or what it does. That could be interesting to me, right? Like if you took the warming continuous ability, and it's like you're not discovered by weather until a Joker's revealed, and then it wears off for whatever reason or something, and then it's like, oh, I'm chilly now. Or it needs to be recharged by returning to our homeland. That could also be kind of interesting, right?
Perhaps.
Or black. Yeah. So.
Lasts a random amount of time. Until a deck is shuffled, for example. And then in a 5e equivalent, it'll be until like a 1 is rolled or something like that.
Yeah. That could be interesting for me too.
Yeah. The other thing we haven't considered yet is that, I mean, you kind of mentioned it earlier, is that we will have access to the Fey deck, Fairy deck, right? That'll be a part of this book. So things could be tied into that somehow. Although, I mean, I guess one talisman could inflict fairy trips on other people, right? That could be interesting.
Sure. Yeah. Is that OP?
I don't know. Not really. It depends on the fairy trick, but maybe. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So now we have 3 ideas.
And the question is, are they better than what we started with, right?
Yeah. So wait. So I get before we decide that. So this last one, trinket idea, we had 2 ideas. One is we make a bespoke ability for the clan, but then if multiple people take it, then they have the same thing. Or 2, you said pick something from this list, and it's diminished. It's like less powerful than the original version. Obviously, the latter has more flexibility. People can take multiple things and it'll be different, but it has nothing that ties it to the clan except what the object looks like, right?
Yeah.
I guess you could like pick 3, and these 3 chosen are related to the clan. The other issue with that though is that if people are coming at it from 5.5e, we'd have to write another list. But that's fine. I could just copy it from here.
Sure.
Yeah, that's not a big deal. Yeah, we could do that. Like it could be like, so for example, the Everfather would be booming, lighting because he's fire and earth, and I don't know, maybe warming, something like that.
Yeah. Now, there's one strike against this idea.
Yeah.
And it's that we were trying to balance these towards character origins, right?
Yeah.
But the trinket you receive is not necessarily an origin. It's like a thing you have. It's not like it doesn't tell you anything about who you are as a person.
Yeah, it does.
And what? Getting a thing from your grandpappy is like tells you who you are.
Yeah, it ties you. It says that your family has been in the clan for a long time. That you're tied to it. You have something that you physically treasure. Yeah, I think it does. I think maybe what you're pointing to is that the other abilities give you something that make you better, that change the way you are, literally, whereas an item doesn't do that. It's something you could actually lose, right? You could lose it.
Sort of. I mean, to me, what it points to is the first two abilities point to your conception of your character, like a narrative conception.
Yeah.
But receiving a trinket is not that, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why I said, like, those ones actually change your character. This one doesn't. It's something that you own. Yeah.
Yeah. And in a way that I feel like that might...
I don't think it matters, because, one, there are players that find that exciting, like starting the game with a magical item that's only theirs, and it's been passed down, and it's got history to it, to the family, that's just exciting. And two, there's a choice, right? If players don't want to take the trinket, well, then they can choose one of the other powers instead, right? I don't think it matters too much.
Yeah. And then, do you think, is the trinket always the choice? You have to make sure the trinket's not always the choice, right?
Yeah.
And that can be tricky.
And I think the answer to that is that it probably won't be always a choice. If we choose the powers that aren't too powerful, and you make it so it's only once per day and it randomly can stop, well, then the other ones might be more reliable, right? And they're more could be more impactful. But then no one picks the trinket, right? So I guess
exactly.
That's always a risk, though, right? I think that's a risk with everything.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still on the fence a little bit myself.
All right.
But I like it conceptually in some ways, as I've noted. In other ways, I'm like, well, maybe it should be something that helps you express your character identity a bit more, which I think is more interesting for character building purposes. Is my reaction, but I could be wrong. You're right. It is cool to have stuff and to have a cool trinket and to hold it up. And maybe people get into it, and then
I mean, if anyone's in the chat right now, I'm curious to know, as a player making a character, how do you feel about getting a family heirloom that has a power, as opposed to having like a character origin feat instead? Do those things, does one seem obviously better than the other, or just does it feel weird getting an item instead of an ability, or is it just not an issue and you're just happy with more choices?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I don't know if I just have a bias against it personally. It doesn't fit into how I play, but how I play is only one aspect of playing and what I appreciate about games, so it'll be different for other people.
Yeah, Zilphia just says, more choices are good, I'm not overly picky. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another part of it as well, is Zilphia kind of alludes to a good point there, is that you like it when it feels more natural. Do you mean like it's an ability that you have as opposed to an item? But like, if we ended up having 3 abilities in the game and one of them is a trinket, I don't think players will be like, oh, I wish this was another one of these. They'd just be happy with the 2 they get to choose from that's not a trinket. Do you see what I mean?
Sure. That's fair. Yeah, I can see an argument for that point of view. So
also, it's very rare. I don't think this has happened before, where there's an ability that you get that then references a different part of the book and lets you choose something. I don't think we've really done that before. And I'm actually kind of excited by it, the idea that you get a thing and then you get to flick to the other part of the book and look at the different abilities you can have there and choose one. That's kind of fun to me.
Mm-hmm. And then unless, I guess we could also keep it open to other... Obviously, we'll look at the minor effects and see what makes most sense. But we can also leave it open to new minor effects for actually this works, right? Like we can also be. Is that a thing we can do as well? Do you think? Like hypothetically,
So
as we
can what?
So we have these minor list of minor effects in the book.
Yeah.
And we want to reference that for all the trinkets. But it could be that you know what minor effect would be great on this talisman is if we did this, but that is not a minor effect.
Oh right, we just write one. Yeah, we can just make stuff as well.
But that could be good too.
Alright, well I guess we're coming to time though, and this is kind of a natural place to stop. We haven't really kind of solved this issue, but I think we've got like multiple options, and like we have a lot of fail safes as well. We seem to be happy with the first idea really, and that's fine. We also have another good idea that's very flexible, and at the worst case scenario we can have 2 of one and 1 of the other, right? And then we have this third that's like a maybe, and I'd kind of like to do 1 of each really, if I'm honest. I think it could work. Yeah.
It says, I think I just get tricky because either everyone gets the same ability.
Yeah.
Tricky, so it might as well be another ability. And as far as an heirloom, you either get stuck with the list or players break things. And yeah, that's kind of where my head's at too. We'll play with it. We'll mull it over a bit more. I'm kind of in that camp too, Sophia.
Yeah, actually, someone made a really good point there that I hadn't considered already. That if you just gain an item and it's the same, then it might as well just be an ability instead. And then maybe Zolfi's just solved it for us. Like what I said before, like you get the same item, everyone got the same thing that's stupid. Well, that's what happens with abilities anyway. Like if we take that ability here, booming, while you speak, your voice balance all around you, light shines from behind you, and air rushes through your hair, right?
Yeah.
We could just make that the ability, and then the solution here is that one ability is something you do to gain extra advantages in a situation that feels very real and grounded in the way that you grew up. One is something that's kind of like slower, more passive. It's kind of like more of a cultural thing. And then the other one is something that's actually somewhat magical in nature, but it's like a very minor like cantrip thing. And the question is, why do we have these magical powers? Well, it could be a minor Fae blessing in the family, right? Tie it into that somehow. The reason why I made it an heirloom to begin with is to take magic away from people, because I don't like players being magical from the beginning of the game. That's why it's a trinket instead, something precious. But we could just make it part of the person instead, and that kind of like solves all those problems, right?
Sure. Unless you're worried that people are like, well, I'm special, so I'm gonna take this ability every time.
Yeah, exactly. But then we just make it not very good, right? it's not really like game changing. It's not like an improvement like the other ones are, but it does make you special, and you could do something unique.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, I'll write that down. That's like the last point.
It's an interesting idea. Like Everfather's bloodline, or the Fae Court's bloodline.
Yeah, exactly. You got Fae in your family somewhere, and it lets you do this one little thing that's not really a big deal. It's like your little pie trick.
Yeah. Fae blood court incest.
Ability, and have the player be able to do it since they have Fae blood in their family somewhere. In their family somewhere. They have a small bit of magic they can do. Okay, interesting. Alright, then that's well done, Sophia. Came in the clutch at the end there. Of a different take on this whole thing. Yeah. I'm still leaning towards magic item just because of what I said. That I like players to be devoid from magic at the beginning of the game, but that's my preference, and that Sophia's idea kind of actually solves that issue, the issues that we had with it.
And since this is a Faeseeker guide to Avallen, it can also be like a character origin ties it in. Like, why would someone be a Faeseeker? Well, maybe because they do believe they're tied to the Fae somehow, and that's why they're
they can do this thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's kind of weird, and that's cool and not a folkloric thing that we can play around.
And people ask for it, right? People always ask me like, "Hey, can I have like a Fae origin or that kind of thing?" And I end up saying, "Well, we have legendary paths that have that, but like this will give it to you something for the beginning of the game instead." And,
to going to be aligned with your fairy court right away.
Yeah, I'm kind of bringing myself around to it, even though that's like been a thing for me. It's like no magic at the beginning of the game.
Well, yeah, but it's a little magic, but it's still folkloric, and it's still. That's a thing. Special. Your special little guy.
Yeah.
who just you're just for great things because you get louder than everybody else when you want to.
Yeah.
Maybe, okay, here's a pitch for
Yeah.
it. What if it's like a carry power, right? Like for example, you're only loud when you're really stressed out or something. It's like a negative input releases your
Yeah,
fave.
maybe slightly
Under
cursed, like,
duress or
yeah. But like, I do like the idea of like, oh, you can snuff out candles or things like that as well, like a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be fun. Something to think about. I'm okay with this.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well then, yeah, I think we've kind of done this. That's the stream. So it's funny actually because before the stream we were talking about we've kind of almost covered every section of the book now. I think this might have been actually it. I think we've now covered every section of the book. And done some design work for it on stream. So then the question is, where do we go next? And the answer would be more like meta stuff, talking about Kickstarter, or just designing other things, other parts of the book again. But the other option we had was doing a let's play, right? Playing in the world somewhat. And then this is the stream where someone comes in and says, hey, I like it that you're doing design work instead of all the Let's Play stuff because everyone does Let's Play stuff and no one does design work and you guys are the only person to be doing that. And then, so that kind of goes against that. So,
sure.
I'm not sure what we'll be doing next week, actually.
So, stay tuned. And
stay tuned
and see where we land.
Yeah.
Playing games would be fun. Just because playing games is fun. And okay, in terms of doing a Let's Play too, we'll talk about it off. That's probably a conversation for off stream.
Yeah.
And which I'm okay with. I like the idea of playing on stream, but I don't think it has to be so much as like trying to run a full campaign. I think there's things we can do basically that lets you play, but it's not so stressful.
Like mini scenarios and stuff. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. All right. Let's sign off here. But in conclusion, we made a bunch of ideas and this is like improved what we've done. And we've done a classic good Adderstone Games podcast where I brought something to the table and then through discussion and design ideas, we've made it better with using yourself and chat. So yeah, thank you everyone involved. It's good.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Zofia. Thank you, first time chatters, especially Desmar. Keep on, if you're still in the chat, keep on with your game design work and share it around when we got something to share. Feel free to pop back in and share the stuff you're working on.
And we'll see you next week. Same Avallen place, same Avallen time.
Same Avallen. We will see you next time.
Yeah, we will. We will see you next week. No worries, Sophia. Yeah, we'll see you around for sure. See you then. All right, take care, everyone.
No worries. Yeah, take care. Bye.